Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to Val Fashion's YouTube channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. So today we're going to be learning how to make an off-shoulder Victorian corset. In my previous video, I posted a video on how to draft and cut off-shoulder Victorian corset. So today we're going to be stitching these lovely pieces together. So just in case you haven't seen the video on how to draft an off-shoulder Victorian corset, I'll be dropping the link in the description box so that you can check it out. So now I'll quickly run through it. I have my center front here. It was cut on fold, and I've also gone ahead to laminate my lace with this fuchsia pink doll face satin, and then here is my lining. Okay, then I have my center side front. This is the center front. Here, this is my center side front. I'll be joining this and this together. And see, I have two pieces of this, and I have my linings too. Two pieces. You can see this is front two, and this is front one. So here is my front three. And see this. This is the side with the armhole. See, I have my half inch for joining this and this together. And you can see I have my 2 inches for sewing allowance. So this third piece carries our sewing allowance, and I also have two pieces, this one for the left and one for the right. You can see these ones, they just have half inch round, and then here has just half inch because I cut on fold. So in a situation where you want to have one boning line here, you will cut yours. That's if you want to have joining here, you cut yours with half inch here, half inch here. That's it will be like this with half inch on both sides. But mine just have half inch on one side. And this is my center back piece. Can you see? This is the part that is going to carry the loops or the zipper in a situation where you want to attach zipper. So, and I also have two pieces, one for the left and the right. I've also laminated my lace, and then this is my lining. So for the side center back, can you see the back two, because I want to have three boning lines on each of the side. So this is the second one. You can see that I have my linings too, and then this is the side back. And you see it has half inch here, and then it has my 2 inches sewing allowance. So without wasting time, I'm going to be joining these pieces together. This is my lining. I'm going to pick my lining this way and place it. Can you see this side that is curved like this? I'm going to place it this way and then sew it to this end. I'll do the same thing for this side. Place this curved part, as this is the side with the cups. Okay, you can see this side looks like a bust, so I'm going to sew them together like this. So having sewn them together like this, of course it will now flip this way. Then I'll pick this side front, that's the last side here, and then place it over like this and then stitch it together. I'll also do the same thing for this side. And then finally, by the time it comes out this way, because this is how all of them will be when I stitch them together. So finally, when it comes out this way, you can see the armhole. I'll repeat the same process for the main fabric, and then I'll show us. So I made the sides of the front, so I start to show us this side. So first, what you're going to do is place your, this is my center piece, and this is the second side front. Okay, so now I'll place it this way. Remember, I added half inch sewing allowance. You want to make sure you're sewing on your half inch. So first the back stitch. You see? So as I'm coming this way, can you see how I'm holding it? You want to make sure that this curve, you sew it into this curve. You don't want any part to be more than the other. Mm. You see, I've sewn this part. Look what it looks like. So now the last one, I'll just pick it. Of course, this is a straight sewing, so I'm just going to sew straight like I have done for this side too. And then I'll press them open and show us how to sew our bonnets. Pieces together. Can you see? This is what we have. So for this Victorian corset, I'm going to be doing invisible boning technique. Can you see? I've sewn my boning already to this side. Can you see this side here? Can you see that it already has structure compared to this side because already it has bonings. So now to do our invisible boning technique, I'll be sewing my boning to the same line, to the seam allowance only, just like I have done for this. And you see, I picked the two seam allowance I used to join it together and then I sewed my boning, and this is what I have here. I've not really pressed it. So for this side front, can you see what I have here? I sewed my boning to one side of the seam allowance. This is one side here. So I'll be sewing to this second side. And you see, I need to have two here because if you sew your boning, that's if you just sew these two sides to this side. What I can you see? You notice that this side is thicker, it will be thicker than this, so I want them to have an even balance. So that is why I want to have two bonings here, but if you want to have one on this side, it's still fine, but I just want to have two here, and I'm using my Raglan boning to do this. Okay, first I'm going to measure the length I have here. So all I need to do now, you can see that before I placed my boning, I came down by half of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to still place my boning from that point where I placed the other one, and then I'll hold it this way. This is me just measuring the length of the boning I want to use. So can you see? So I'll stop half inch away from the hem, just like I did for this. And then I'll use my scissors to cut. So make sure you're not using the scissors you use to cut your normal clothes because boning spoils scissors. So just get a special scissors and old scissors for it. So having cut out my boning, I'm going to cut my masking tape and then I'll cover this end. You don't want to leave it, it can poke the skin. So I'll also pick this side and then tip it down. So now I want to sew it. So you want to shift. I want to use this side because it's a little difficult sewing this side. Remember that this is a curve. So I'm going to place it half inch above the end here as I'm starting from down here. And then take note that I've shifted the other seam allowance. Of course, the other seam allowance has the bone in there. So I'm just going to shift it this way. So you make sure that you open very well like this. So remember that here has been notched, so this will allow you to relax. This is the underbust part. Can you see? I'm placing. So you must make sure. Can you see the how I'm holding my boning? You want to your hand placement matters a lot. Can you see? I've sewn one side of my boning. I'll come here and sew on the second side. So this now, you must make sure that your seam allowance is up to half inch. You see, because my seam allowance is up to half inch, that is why it's able to accommodate this boning here and everything is sitting well. So I'll come here now again and sew the second at the tip here. So I'm done sewing my boning. So I'm going to turn it to the right side. Can you see that this side has this very nice structure? You cannot compare it to this side now that doesn't have the boning. So by the time I press everything and it's sitting all nice, can you see? Can you see? So let's just assume that the breast is under. Can you see what is going to happen? It has this nice fit. And then again, you can see the bustier is seamless. You can't see any seam line. All my seam lines are hidden inside. Remember that I'm using a lace fabric, a black lace fabric, and inside is fuchsia pink. So you don't want to see black thread. Everything will just come out very neat and perfect. So now I'm going to fix the boning for this side is to pick my seam allowance towards one side. You can see I sewed this one towards this side, and I've also measured my boning. And you see I came down half inch below the same like the starting point here, and then also here you can see that. So now I'm going to place my boning under. So I want it to be this way. So can you see what I'm doing? I'll place it this way like this. So here I'm done sewing my bonings. Can you see our Victorian corset is really coming out well and it is well structured. So now it's time for us to attach our bra cups. If you're actually making this for a busty person, you don't even need bra cups. The bonings will give you structure so long as you cut your bustier properly or correctly and tightened all the parts you need to tighten. It will sit well. But I'm going to be attaching my bra cups to this bustier. So here are the bra cups I'll be using. This is size 38. Okay, so first I'm going to fold it into two and then notch the down part. Just take note of what I'm doing. I'll notch the down part. This is to actually to get the center. I'll do the same thing and notch the down part. So now I'm going to be placing that part that is notched directly on the underbust part. You can see that my underbust part is notched. Can you see what we have? Just fixing the cup alone. Can you see that the bust area is looking fuller? Okay, so I'm going to be overlapping this cup like you can see me doing right now, and then I'll place it and pin it at the underbust part. You see, so you just want to make sure that it's touching the underbust part, and then as you can see, as it is that it's touching the underbust part, you can see that the center part is overlapping on top of each other, and thereby giving that curve that we have under our bust. If you take note, you'll notice that there's this curve under the bust of a woman. Okay, so that's that. So I'm just going to pin this bra cups properly, and then I'll use my needle and thread to tack it. So can you see how I'm pinning it? And I'm going to tack it in a way that it will not be visible at the front side of the bustier. I'm going to be tacking it to my seam allowance, so everything will just be neat and beautiful. So you can see, so I'm just going to pin it and show us how to tack it properly. So I'm done pinning. I'm going to be tacking the underbust point there, and then I'll tack the side. You can see me touching. Just pick your seam allowance alone, and then I'll tack the upper part there too, and then of course still tack where I join the centerpiece and the side, tack the middle where the cups are overlapping. Okay, and also tack this side. So I'll do that and show us the outcome. So I'm done tacking my bra cups, as you can see, and it's coming out really well. So you can notice that the bra cup did not get to the armhole side. So just in case your bra cup is reaching your armhole, please trim it a little so that it doesn't get to the armhole. You should have your sewing allowance, that's your half-inch sewing allowance at the armhole area. So now next I'm going to be showing us how to fix the raglan sleeve to the neckline. So now to fix the sleeve, first I'll fold the bustier into two like this, the center front, that's from the neckline, and then I'll measure 2.5 inches. I'll go ahead and notch that point where I have my 2.5 inches. That's where my raglan sleeve will start from. So having done that, now I'm going to get my lace fabric. This lace fabric I have is about half yard. So I'm going to place it there on the neckline. So take note of what I'm doing. I'm placing it right side facing right side. You see, I'm going to try to push in some parts like let's say 2-3 inches or thereabout. This is so that I can have excess at that part that I'll be trimming out. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm placing it at that point where I have my 2.5 inches notch. Then I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch down that point. You see, so I'm going to sew down this point and then show us how we're going to be pleating. But while I'm sewing, I will not get to the side seam. I'll leave a space, I'll leave a seam of like 1 inch at that point. So I'll sew that and come back and show us. So I've stitched it down. So as you can see at the side, I left a space of about 1 inch. That's at the armhole area. So now I'll go ahead and create my pleats. So can you see what I'm doing? So now remember that I pinned where I stitched down was at my 2.5 inches. So now I'm going to be creating a pleat and folding down by like 1 inch. So this is what I'm trying to say. Remember that where my stitch is at 2.5 inches, and now I'm folding down by 1 inch to create my pleat. So at the end of the day, at the neckline point there, I'll be left with 1.5 inches because initially it was 2.5 inches and I folded down by 1 inch. So that means I'll be left with 1.5 inches. I hope that is clear. So this is how I'm creating my pleats. I'm folding the pleats backwards. So I'll do that and we'll take to our machine and sew. So here we are. I'm done creating my pleats. So it is good for you to iron it at this point so that the pleats can relax well. So I'm just going to turn it to the wrong side. That's from the reverse side, and then I'll go and sew it. So can you see from the reverse side it will be easier to sew because you can see where your bustier is. So I'm just going to sew that way, and you see that I'm just going to be sewing just that point the way it is, and then I'll have to leave about 1 inch. Remember, just like I left 1 inch at the armhole area, so I'll sew up to this point and stop. I won't sew to the end. I'll leave 1 inch there, which will be for turning my lining. So you can see I'm done stitching it down, and I made sure to leave my seam allowance. You see that? So now I can go ahead and trim my excess at that side. So once I trim it, I'll turn it and show us what it looks like at the back. Okay, so can you see? So I have my pleated raglan sleeve running from the off shoulder neckline. So you can see, so I'm just going to neatly tuck in this area. You see that? So I'll do that, and then I'll create the other side just the same way I did this, and then I'll show us the next step to take. After doing this, so now to determine the length of this raglan sleeve, take note that this is a raglan sleeve and then it is still off shoulder. So you can see that I'm placing it from the neckline. So now the round shoulder of the person I'm making this Victorian corset for is 42 inches. A round shoulder is 42, and here from here in front here, I have I have about 12 inches. Can you see? Plus my sewing allowance, so everything is 13 inches. Can you see that? So at the back, I have the same 13 inches. So 13 plus 13, that's 26 inches. And I said her round shoulder is 42 inches. So we're going to say 42 minus 26. That 16, I'm going to divide it into two because one will be for the left and one will be for the right. So here we have 8 inches on this side and 8 inches on this side. So that will sum up to give us our 16. So remember that I've placed it from the neckline here. So from here, which is the armhole of my client, I'm going to be measuring 8 inches. And then if you notice from the thumbnail, you notice that the raglan sleeve dropped. It's not just tight around that place. It dropped a little. So from here now, I will measure my 8 inches. Can you say that? So 8 inches, I'll add about 3 inches to that measurement. This is from the armhole here. You can see where the armhole is. I'm not taking the measurement from the neckline here. So from this part, I'll measure 8 inches, then I'll add 3 inches to it, or even 4 inches, so that it drops well on the sleeve, on the arm, on the upper arm of the person. So this is it here. So this is where the sleeve is going to stop. So I'll come here and cut on these 12 inches. So I've repeated the same thing for the second side, and this is me confirming the length that's from the neckline. I want to make sure that they are equal, that the same 1.5 inches I have on the left is what I have on the right. Remember that this will be outside, so you just want everything to match up very well. And then of course you can see that my sleeves, they are same length of 12 inches from the armhole. So next we're going to place our lining on the right side of the lace. So I'm going to be turning the neck, I'm going to be stitching the neckline of the bustier. So first I'm going to pin the center front there, and then so you can see now I'm going to shift away my lace fabric, that's the raglan sleeve. I'm going to shift it away. I'll be starting my stitch from that extra 1 inch I left by the side there. So take note, I'm pushing away my raglan sleeve away from that point, so you can see that. So I'm going to be stitching it from the armhole side to then through the neckline and then to the other side. So, and my sleeve is neatly tucked away from it or moved away from it. So that's what I'll be doing. So I'm going to pin it round and then I'll show us how to stitch it down. So after pinning my neckline, I'm going to take to my sewing machine and stitch the neckline on 1/2 inch all the way to the armhole. So once I'm done with that, next we'll go ahead and notch the neckline like you can see me doing. Right now you want to make sure to notch the 1/2 inch. This is so that you can easily turn your lining. So take note of my stitch. You notice that the stitch is from the armhole to the neckline and then to the other armhole. So that's it. So once we're done with our notching, I'll flip to the right side and this is what we have. So this is what we have on the right side. You see that the armhole is sitting neatly turned out and it's on its own. The sleeve is not attached to the armhole. I hope we get that. Can you see? So I'm just going to iron it. The other side is still the same thing, as you can see. I'm just going to turn my sides. I'm going to be doing French finishing, so I'm just going to turn the sides. Fix the down part, which is the skirt part, is a mermaid skirt. I posted a video on how to cut the mermaid skirt, just in case you have not seen that video. I'll be dropping the link in the description box so that you can check it out later. So now it's time for us to treat our back. I've gone ahead to fix my loops at the back, as you can see, and I've also sewn my bone into it. So now I'm going to be showing us how to attach a bone into the center back where we have our loops, and see my bonings on the other panels. You can see, so I want to have 3 boning lines here. One will be on the parts on the center back where my loops are, So I'm going to show us that. So here I've measured the length of my boning. As you can see, I came down by ½ inch from the start of the neckline and then ½ inch away from the waistline. That's the length of the boning is minus 1 inch from the actual length I have on the center back. And you see how I'm placing it down to that point. So now I'll get my masking tape, cover up the tips in order to avoid poking the skin of the person, and then I'll be stitching it down there at this point at the center back. Take note, I'm placing it on top of the loops, so this will actually strengthen the loops so that when you drag and you are trying to lace the back to create that snatched waistline, it will not cut, your loops will not cut. So this is actually to give strength to it. Even if you are using eyelets, you still need a boning in front of your eyelet. So whatever you're using, that boning is very important. So as you can see, I've stitched it down to the center back. So I'm going to show us this one that I have done already. And you see my boning was placed on the right side of the fabric, you can see, and then I went ahead to use my lining to sew it. So when you're sewing your lining, you want to make sure that you are sewing after the boning line, after the stitch of your boning. And you see that directly after the stitch. So you don't want to stitch on top of that boning because you want to conceal everything inside. So that's what I'll be repeating for the second one. So let me show us the right side. Can you see that everything is neatly tucked in here? Okay, so that's it. So I'll repeat the second one and then I'll show us how to sew the upper part to the down part and to achieve a very neat finishing on the waistline. Remember that at the upper part here, I subtracted 1¼ inch from the center back, which I said was going to be replaced by the loops to achieve a laced back and a snatched waistline. So I'm going to show us how to do that. So now you can see I've sewn it to the down part of my skirt. This is the skirt. So let me use this side to explain to us that I've already done. Can you see? I placed my line. You can see that I've sewn it already to the down part of the skirt, and I left that space, that 1¼ inch that I left, the opening there too, for me to lace the for me to lace my loops. Okay, so now you want to neatly turn this place. This is what we want to achieve. We want to make sure that this place is neatly turned so that since we are not going to, since our the upper bodies, that's the back upper bodies, is not reaching this point, so you need to make this place as neat as possible. So now this is my second lining, and you see this is the part, just like I notched the skirt when I was cutting the mermaid skirt, I notched the zip allowance. So this is to show that this is the zip allowance part. And then you can also see that my lining, the satin, goes all the way down, but this is stopping below the knee. Okay, so if you want yours to be a full lining, that's fine, you can do full lining all the way down, but I want mine to stop halfway. For the front too, I stopped at this point, and you can see my work is very neat. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to place my lining this way, right side of the lining facing right side here. Can you see? And then I'm going to sew the waistline. So I'll sew the waistline like this, and then I'll bring it to this side. Can you see? This is the side of the zipper. I'm going to bring it to this side and stitch it down all the way to the end of my lining. So of course it will stop where this one too has stopped. I'm just going to pin it here. You see? So I'll just sew it down all the way to this point. So once I'm done sewing it all the way down to this point, you can see that this is the side, the other side. Okay, I'm going to sew it all the way down to the end of the lining. Can you see that? I'll do that, sew it all the way down to the end of the lining here. Then I will turn it out to look like this. I hope we understand what I just showed us. Now for the front piece, this is what we have. You can see we have attached the sleeve already to the neckline. So the next thing to do to attach it to the back here, first you can see this part. Can you see that is still rough? Okay, so all I need to do now is to fold it over like this. I'll fold it like this and then like this. So you can either sew it down. Of course, this is black, so I'll use my black matching thread to sew it down like this. This is so that you can neatly cover the rough part. Here, so I'm just going to sew it down. I'll do the same thing on this side, then I'll show us how to attach it to the back of the gown. So after stitching it down, next I'll do is to create my pleats. As you can see, I've pressed it and my pleat is looking all nice and neat. The three pleats are coming out really well. So I'm just going to press it well. I'll repeat the same thing for the second side. So take note that this sleeve was attached to the neckline, but for the back, it will be attached to the armhole. So you can see the front armhole is just there on its own. So the sleeve will be attached to the back armhole. So I'm just going to go ahead and press this side, and then I'll show us how to attach the sleeves to the back armhole. So this is me just trimming out my excess. So here I'll stitch the sleeve together at that point so that it doesn't shift. So now to attach it to the back armhole, from the tip of the armhole there at the upper part, you can see that the sleeve is not getting to the end. So I have my sewing allowance left there. That's to say this sleeve is not supposed to get into the underarm. That's the armhole, the armpit area, the down part. It's not going to get to that side. So the sleeve will stop before my side seam allowance. Okay, you see, I'll pin that part, stitch it down, and then use my bias, black bias, to neatly finish that part. And I'm going to be sewing the bias in a way I won't top stitch it so that the stitch does not show outside. Remember that that's the same way we did for our invisible boning technique. Everything, I don't want stitches to show outside. I want everything to just be very neat and nice. So I'll go ahead and shape on my seam allowance. That's my side sewing allowance. And then I'll wear this dress on the mannequin for us to see. So if you have watched this video up to this point and you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe. Like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to put on the notification bell so that you get notified once I post a new video. So here we are. This is what our Victorian corset mermaid gown looks like. This is the back view, and here is the front view. Can you see how beautiful it came out? This is Raglan sleeve. Everything just came out really nice. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please do not forget to subscribe. Share this video with your friends, and don't forget to put on your notification bell so that you get notified once I post a new video. Bye.